Hey guys, what's up? Thought I'd do a fun video on how to beat the Scotch opening. It's one of those openings that I personally don't have a fantastic record against, but I've got 3 games here. In each of those games, black wins against the Scotch. And what you have to do is try and guess the ELOs of who's playing. All right. Let's dive straight in. Okay, so what is the Scotch opening? Okay, well, it starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. This is normal. And here there are many responses. White can play the Italian. White can play the Spanish or Roy Lopez. They can play d3. They can play the Ponziani. They can play 3 knights. There's lots of things that can happen. But the Scotch continues with pawn to d4, contesting this pawn twice, and it's aggressive, and it's a great way to start. So in this game, we see black take the pawn. This is generally the best move. It's the engine move, and here you can't take back with the queen. The normal move is to take back with the knight, and here black plays queen to f6, which is interesting. The knight now retreats to cover f7. White throws in a check with the bishop, which is blocked with c3, and the bishop retreats now to c5. And the game continues with bishop to d3. We have the knight coming into e5, now contesting this knight. And here white decides to trade knights and gets checkmated on f2. Okay, so that, guys, is game number 1. This is a 15-minute rapid game with increment. So let's move on to game number 2. Okay, so here we have the Scotch, and here black takes back, and here we have the Steinitz variation. This is what I play myself. White takes the knight immediately, which is kind of valid. You know, they're wanting maybe to mess up black's pawns. Of course, it hangs this pawn here, so black takes straight away. We have bishop blocking, and now black really has to recover the knight, so takes there with the d pawn. And here, black is a pawn up. This is really the whole point of the Steinitz. White brings out the knight to attack the queen. And there are various options. Obviously, what we want to do in the opening phase is to develop as quickly as possible. So here we have bishop to b4 pinning the knight. So the knight is now no longer attacking the queen. It can't take because it would put the king in check, and that would be illegal. So we have the bishop tickled, and here black trades off. Now, as well as being a pawn up, black has messed up white's pawn structure. This bishop is also pinned and cannot legally move anywhere, again without putting the king in check, so that would be illegal. Okay, black continues with development. The the queen is now tickled, and that hangs the bishop. Okay, we have the queen blocking the check, thereby proposing maybe a trade of queens. Now, if you're a piece and a pawn up, you trade, right? We're up a full knight. We've got lovely pawns for black. Black simply castles, come and attack the c2 pawn here with development, also connecting the rooks, completing development on that move. White attacks b7, and black thinks, well, let's trade pawns. This is fine. Rook f comes to c8, defending all the pawns. Pawn starts to push forwards, centralizing the knight, attacks the bishop, and also forks this pawn here. And notice there's no way for the bishop to come to this square or to this square to defend the pawn, because those squares are both covered. This one's covered twice by knight and bishop. So how's white going to save that pawn? He doesn't. And so black here again just simply trades off. White attacks the bishop. And now we have a fork here, and this is a good example of the square, because we're attacking the the rook, we're also attacking the pawn. And notice that both of the two squares, whereby the rook could move, save itself, and defend the pawn, are also covered by the bishop. So we've got a square there. Squares can also apply to, obviously, queens and also knights as well. Okay, white now puts double pressure on this pawn here, but black is probably very happy to make some trades. So takes the pawn, this pawn moves forward, king now comes across to hassle the rook, rook retreats. And what would we do here? Okay, hitting the rook, also defending this pawn, which was previously black's only undefended piece, apart from the h7 pawn. Rook moves out of the way, not really attacking the bishop. And the king now advances up the board. We have pawn push. Here comes the king. Now a pawn push again, hitting the rook. And now, wow, attacking the other rook with the king. You can see the power of the king coming up now. Okay, what do we play here? Okay, rook c b8, trying to contest the rooks. White's not interested. We have a check. We come after this pawn. The other rook comes across now to the open e-file. Check. Check again. Defended here by the bishop. Now there could be ideas. Obviously the king has to move now, but white could potentially trade here. But this king can't move anywhere and remain attacking this rook. So the king's only legal squares are these now. So king moves over there, pawn checks again, king goes in the corner, and boom, checkmate. So what do we think of that game? Interesting. Okay, game number 3. This is also from black's perspective. The Scotch. Here we have takes, yeah, and again another Steinitz, right? These are all different players, by the way. Okay, again they take the knight, queen comes over. Most common move I see here is for the queen to block, in which case we simply trade queens and then recapture the knight with one of these pawns. Queen does block, we trade, and black again recaptures with the d pawn, keeping the 2 pawn islands. Because if black had recaptured here, you'd have 3 pawn islands, you know, an isolated a pawn. But we're a pawn up. Yeah, bishop comes out, knight develops. Are we going to see a pin? No, bishop comes out, attacking now the c2 pawn, which is very often undefended in this opening. Bishop blocks now here. Trading makes sense, because that would give white an isolated pawn on the d-file. And that's what we see. We see trades. Now probably long castles. No, pinning the knight first. White attacks the bishop. What's the bishop going to do? I don't know if I would trade here. Okay. Black trades, and now black castles kingside. So now we've got a situation where we've got a bishop against the knight, but again black has the better pawn, so it's good practice at converting a good position. Out here we centralize the knight, obviously, and now the bishop really needs to defend this pawn because that pawn is also forked. So the bishop comes back and defends. We have rook f to e8. Occupying the open file. White contests. Now probably king f8. Nope. a6 is played. Okay. White pushes forward to harass the knight. Knight comes back to its natural square on f6. Bishop now attacks black's undefended c-pawn. So we have rook ac8 to defend. This rook now attacks the b-pawn that's also undefended. That can push. And it pushes all the way to b5. Nice. Bishop attacks knight. Knight flips round and counterattacks the bishop. Bishop moves. Are we going to see a trade of rooks? No, the knight re-centralizes. Again attacking this weak pawn. And, whoa, okay. So you can see what white's trying to do here. White's saying, if you take, I checkmate you on the back rank. So here, there's another issue as well, which is that if black thinks, I can trade rooks, that forces rook takes, but again, black can't take the bishop because there would still be a rook here which would come back and checkmate. So Good play by white there to trade, but loses this pawn. Now the rook is attacked twice, so we have a trade-off here. And notice also, white can't capture this knight either, because that would fall to rook e1 mate, because both kings are here in the middle of 3 pawns, and therefore can only move sideways. So at a risk from a checkmate, nice. Pawn takes c3, defending the knight. Oh dear, and it's mate. Okay, so what do we think of those 3 games? Well, I will tell you that the game that I played was the second game. This third game was Thin White Duke 85, a Chess Bootcamp Club member and follower of the channel. But the first game, interestingly, was just played. Let me flick back to it. This game with the checkmate on move 8. The player with the white pieces was I am Mukhidin. What's his Madaminov from Uzbekistan. The player with the white pieces who got checkmated in 8 moves was Surya Shekhar Ganguly. Right, Mukhidin is an international master. Surya Shekhar Ganguly is a GM, and this was just played in the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship. This was a 15 plus 20 game. So if you thought that the first game was played by the weakest players, very wrong indeed. But just goes to show what we always say, you know. If you've got a dog in the fight, you've got a chance, you know, and players of all calibers can blunder. And I just thought this was hilarious. Craig shared this one with me. I don't know the date on which it was played, but oh my goodness. And 100% accuracy there from Black. IM beats a 2645 Grandmaster. So there you go. It's a strange old world, but few examples there of how to play against the Scotch. Yeah, I showed you 2 Steinitz variations, but at the intermediate level and lower levels, it does work very well. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'd be surprised if you picked all 3. So yeah, Thin White Duke game here was, so the second game was me rated 1366 against the 1300 in, what was that, Blitz? That was a 5-minute Blitz. And the third game, Thin White Duke, both 1200s, and in this game Duke actually got his highest rapid rating of his chess.com career so far, so well done to Duke. Well done to you if you got anywhere near guessing any of them. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. See you soon.